Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. Welcome to our presentation today. If you have been here before, welcome back. And if you're new, then yeah, welcome. So I am going to share this presentation with you. What I'll do is I'll do a very brief presentation at the beginning. You will have a chat box at the top of your screen there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to just write them there, and then we will go through them at the end. Okay, cool. So just sharing the presentation here. Hopefully you can all see this. So today we will be discussing composition and basically what to do in maybe a bit more difficult situations and how to get your composition right. So there's a lot to the composition, so I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So what I've done here is I've highlighted a few points. The general rule is to stand at the furthest corner of the room in order to capture as much space as you possibly can. So the whole point of taking property photography image is to show information. So what we want to do is stand in the furthest corner of the room in order to capture as much information as we can. We do not do lifestyle photos, so if you look at Airbnb, you'll see more sort of lifestyle photos and things like that. We do not do that. Our purpose is to our purpose of the property photography is to help the agent sell the home. So yeah, or let the home, I should say. So yeah, we want to show as much information as possible. Now, using that rule, it's not always possible to stand at the furthest corner. And if you are standing at the furthest corner, it actually might not be the best view. So sometimes you will have things in the way that are large and bulky and will be in the foreground, rendering a lot of the image with dead information. So what I mean by that is a lot of the times you'll have doors and door frames. Those are probably the number one thing. Sometimes you'll have maybe, I don't know, an edge of a sofa, a bed frame, and basically if the large object is close to you, and you get that in the corner of the image or on the side of the image, then you're not capturing as much information as possible. So the simple way to help that and avoid things like that is simply by stepping forward or backwards, even by an inch or two can really help, or to either side, even just slightly by an inch or two. The other thing you can do is move your camera so that it's facing more towards one side of the room than the other. So here, just to recap, very simple 2 rules that I would like you to take away and remember from today. So the first rule is to always stand in the furthest corner of the room in order to capture all of the room. Obviously, we're using a wide angle lens, so most of the time you will be able to get the full room by standing at the corner. And then the second rule is to just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of your composition, you know, look in the live view if you are using live view, or just look at your image after so that you can see what you've captured, making sure that you don't have any bulky sort of objects in the foreground. I will say that there is one slight rule to this. Generally in living rooms with large sofas, if the back is facing you and you're at the furthest point that you can be, then that's absolutely fine. So here we have an example of an image where I would suggest to move forward. And literally even an inch, half an inch can make the world of a difference. So as you can see here, we're in the furthest corner of the kitchen, but we're obstructing some of it with the fridge. So the fridge is covering 1/3, well, nearly 1/3 of the image. So what that means is that part of the image is now dead information. So here, I hope you are all jealous of my amazing scribble abilities here. So what I mean by dead information is, obviously you can see I've scribbled in red. You could literally crop this image without the fridge and you're still getting the same amount of information. So that's not a good thing. You're using a wide angle lens for a reason, so you want to capture as much information as you can. So if you do feel like you would need to crop, then I would suggest reconsidering your composition. So here we go. We have moved an inch forward. And you can see here that we're getting the full kitchen and that the fridge has been is no longer there. So we don't have any dead information in this image. All of the information we have is useful. I hope that makes sense so far. Again, any questions, please write them down in the chat box as we go along. Right, so here we have the images side by side. So again, on the left here, we have the fridge covering up 1/3 of the image, or nearly 1/3. I won't do the exact fraction. Covering up 1/3 of the image, rendering that completely useless. So we've moved forward an inch and now we get a full view of the kitchen. So here we have another example. I wanted to give an example that was slightly more difficult in regards to the flash. So I don't know if you've made it to our last flash workshop, but we know that we always point the flash at a 45-degree angle behind us or up towards the ceiling. Even doing that, sometimes you will get reflections in windows and mirrors, so or anything glass. So you can see here we have a pretty harsh reflection on the right side of the image here in the shelving unit, and it's a bit, you know, it's not nice on the eye. Now, in order to light the room properly, there's no way to really avoid this. So composition really comes into play here because it will really help us with these sorts of reflections. So here we've moved to the side an inch, and you can see it's made a world of a difference. We still get a view. It's a fairly small room, but we still get a full view of the room. We're getting all the information we need, and we've avoided the reflection on the glass. So here again, I have a on the left here before, where you can see the reflection on the glass, and then afterwards where we've just moved to the left an inch or half an inch, and you can see the difference it's made. And you also get a more of a view of the desk. Okay, so just to recap, always stand at the furthest corner of the room. The whole point of using a wide angle lens is to get as much information as we can of the property of the room. So standing at the furthest corner will really allow you to get as much space as you can. And then the second thing to remember is to just be aware of really bulky, large objects. And then, as we have just seen in that image, also if you are having any issues with the flash reflection and it's really strong, you can always sort of play around with the camera, move it, you know, a millimeter, an inch or two, and sometimes that can make the world of a difference. Okay, so I am going to open this up to Q&A here. Let me just exit out. Okay, hello, hopefully you can see me. I'm just seeing if there are any questions. Okay, no questions yet. Oh, here yes, we do, sorry. If we are shooting a small, narrow room, example bathrooms, is it best to shoot in portrait? Great question. We do not shoot any portrait images. We do not accept any portrait images on the portal, so we only shoot in landscape. I know that bathrooms are the most difficult to shoot in terms of, you know, especially if they're small, but we recommend shooting 2 to 3 angles per room. So if it is a really small bathroom and you can't get the full bathroom, then just shoot 2 different angles and choose the one that you think is the best, basically. So yeah, no portrait, only landscape. I would highly recommend, and I always recommend this to everyone, but I would highly recommend, you know, spending a good few hours or a full day on Rightmove, and just looking at, you know, there's a whole bunch of different images there. There's going to be images from a vendor, there's going to be images from an agent just taking it with their phone, and then there's going to be professional images that are done really well, and then there's also going to be professional images that are not done so well. So I would always advise have a really good look in Rightmove, and sort of try to distinguish yourself, what you think is good, what you don't think is good. What I always say is choose any city and then start from the most expensive property, and you'll see those are usually the best photos. And you'll see the bathroom images, even when the bathrooms are small, you know, if it's an ensuite or whatever. You'll start to sense the decisions that were made by the photographer and the agent on what to choose with those types of sort of more difficult composition images. Right, for the flash, would you recommend off camera or on camera, with or without a diffuser? Thank you. So obviously we had our flash workshop before, but I am happy to answer this. So the flash that we use is a flash gun or speed light, and you just attach that to your camera. So we never use the actual camera flash. With or without a diffuser, some people use with, some people use without. I personally, I mean, it depends on what the light is like, you know, in the room. You can always take a diffuser with you, and then you can play around and see what you prefer. But we don't recommend either way, so you can use with or without a diffuser, it's fine. Right, okay, next question. When making a photo opposite to the entrance room, should we have a door closed or open? Or it depends. Also, should the rooms always be photographed from the entrance point? So if you're, feel free to, Yulia, if you want to sort of expand on this, because I have a couple of questions. But are you talking about sort of like a corridor where you enter, where it's not an actual room and it's just a corridor? If so, we generally, unless it's a beautiful sort of entrance corridor or room, we generally don't recommend taking any photos of corridors. And for the rest of the property, to answer your questions about doors closed or open, doors should be closed. So for 360 tours, if you guys have done any of those yet, the doors should be open, and for regular photos, the door should be closed. So yeah, I hope that answers it. And also, should the rooms always be photographed from the entrance point? So we recommend 2 to 3 angles of each room. Generally, it will be in the furthest corners. So obviously bedrooms will tend to have the beds at, you know, one corner. So you're not going to have access to every corner. But I would say if you have access to 3 corners, then take those 3 corners. Okay, to expand on that, if it's a small room, can we shoot handheld to get a bit closer into the corner of the room? Good question. So obviously we always say to use a tripod. There are several different reasons for using a tripod that will really help you. Obviously to get the images straight, to help with the shutter speed and the ISO, which will in turn then help with light, especially in lower light conditions. So we would never recommend handheld. So I would say just try your best to squeeze into the corner with your tripod. If you sort of squeeze the legs of the tripod to be much narrower, then and you yourself are in the corner, then it shouldn't make too much of a difference having that tripod there. Hopefully this answers your question. I think I just answered it. Do you always need to use a tripod, or is it better in small rooms to shoot without one? Yes, so always use a tripod. So you want yourself to be obviously behind the camera and behind the tripod. And you, if you just back yourself up into the furthest corner, and then like I said, you can even potentially narrow the legs of the tripod to get yourself a bit more room. So yeah, hopefully that's answered that. I would always use a tripod. It's definitely one of the requirements. Yeah, again, as I said, for many different reasons. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Is there anything specific that anybody is struggling with in terms of composition? I know some properties can be, you know, much different to others. So if there's something specific that you have been struggling with, it would be good to know. Okay, any other questions in regards to anything else? It doesn't have to be anything to do with composition necessarily. So some workshops we've done in the past are on camera settings. We have done flash was the most recent, and keeping your vertical straight. So if you have any questions on those, yeah, please feel free to ask. Okay, cool. Well, for now, I'm just going to show a slide on recruitment.
Hey, maybe one more question.
Oh. Thanks, Phil. One sec. Oh, here we go. Oh, hi. Okay, so for a trial job, should we make sure cars are out of the driveway, etc.? So the trial job will, the purpose of the trial job is for it to be as close to a real job as possible. So if you don't know already, generally most of the orders that come through in our system from the agents are 20 photos. And all the requirements on the trial job are exactly the requirements from the agents. So agents will always prefer bins and cars to not be there, but it's not always possible, especially if the car is you know, a neighbor's or something. So to answer your question, just do the best you can. If it's possible to remove the car, then yes, absolutely. If not, then please don't worry about it. Okay, next question. If you're shooting a first floor flat, do you need to shoot the stairways? No, so like I said earlier, the corridors and stairways, sorry, I was just thinking for a second, I'm not sure if I actually mentioned stairways. So corridors and stairways, we always say generally to stay away from, unless it's a really photo-worthy, beautiful corridor or stairway, then I would just avoid. Okay, next question. Would you recommend using the built-in level of your camera if it has one, or should we use a bubble level? Definitely, well, you can use both. I would use both. So for unless your tripod doesn't have it, but most tripods will at least have 2 different spirit levels. So you can sort of assess the how vertical and horizontal it is based on that. But you can also use the one that's inbuilt. So I would say use both. Flash question, how do you choose the power? Really good question. So obviously every room and every property will have different light. So your flash is going to, the power of your flash is completely going to depend on your lighting situation. So if you are in a particularly darker environment, leave your ISO at 400, and the flash the flash power will not need to be that high. The reason being is because you will have the natural light coming in, so the flash will be acting as a secondary light source. So if your ISO is at 400, then the power should be lower. If it's a very sunny day, that's generally when you have to boost the flash higher in order to compensate. So a lot of people would think that because it's a sunnier day and there's lots of light that you don't need as much flash, but the opposite is true. So your flash is meant to be a secondary source of light, and it's meant to be a diffused light. So it helps fill in the shadows. So when you have that really harsh sunlight coming in, you will need to compensate that by boosting the flash, so that it just creates a nicer, cleaner, sort of more even light throughout the room. So on sunnier days, I would turn down the ISO to 200, just so that you're not getting any bleeding or, overexposed bits. Okay, if you have a storage room near the entrance, do you need to shoot it? That's a really good question. I would say no. Not if you can't get into the room, then I would say no. If it is a room that you're able to actually fit into, then I would say yes. But storage rooms generally don't really, they're more like closets. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to comment on that. But if it's just sort of a storage cupboard or a really small room that you can't fit into, then no. Do you need to shoot 20 pictures even if it is a small flat? Great question. So the client, again, the trial job and the jobs for the clients are always 20 images. There are some different packages that some clients have, but in general, most of the orders have 20 images. So even if it's a small flat, you do need to choose, you do need to take 20 images. If you are really struggling with that number, then you can upload duplicates. So rather than trying to fit in the 20 and taking photos that you don't think you know, are usable, then just upload a duplicate or two. That's absolutely fine. Especially in studio flats, it will nearly be impossible to get 20 images. So yeah. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I'm just going to share a quick slide, but if you have, we have a few minutes left, so if you do have any questions, feel free to write them and I will get back to them in a second. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Right, so this is just in terms of helping you with your recruitment process. Please send us your first trials as soon as possible. We are expecting high demands in many different areas of the country. If you have sent a trial and you have had feedback, please action that feedback as soon as you can, and then send a trial as quickly as you can after, so that we can get you up and running to work, basically. And if you are awaiting feedback on a certain trial and you still haven't heard anything, please bear with us. We will get back to you as soon as possible. The recruitment team is amazing and they are working through things as fast as they can. In terms of your DBS, it can take up to 2 weeks. So if you don't have that yet, please get on that and apply for that as soon as you can. And if you have any questions or concerns regarding recruitment, the recruitment email is recruitment@focalagent.com. Okay, hopefully that made sense to everyone. Let me just check if there's any more questions. Okay, I think I got all of them. Any last questions before we end? Okay, cool. Well, great. I really enjoyed this session. I think there were some really great questions, so thank you so much, guys. I hope that this was helpful for you. You all have my email, so I'm here anytime at all. If you think of a question that you haven't had a chance to ask today, please feel free to ask me. You can also ask the recruitment team or whoever has been giving you your feedback, of course. Yeah, and we are we'll be holding different workshops quite regularly. We don't have next week's schedule as of yet, but as soon as we get that, it will be some point today that we send that out. So yeah, I hope to see you all there. Yeah, thank you so much again for joining, and see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.